Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. And we are going to be having another live with Mr. Gerald Perreira. He'll be joining us shortly. And so, we are going to be looking beyond the headlines at the official statements to ask questions that many people are not asking within the mainstream media. At a time of rising military rhetoric, regional tension, and growing involvement by global powers, Venezuela once again finds itself at the center of a dangerous geopolitical moment. But what does this look like on the ground, away from the press briefings, sanctions announcements, and think tank analysis? This afternoon, we are joined by someone with the first hand observations. We'll be joined by Mr. Gerald Pereira, bringing us direct insight into daily life, public sentiment, and whether the signs point toward real conflict or political theater. This conversation matters not only for Venezuela, but for the Caribbean, Latin America, and anyone concerned about how great power rivalry and regional disputes can reshape entire societies. So we are going to be joined this afternoon by Mr. Pereira. I'm not sure he's yet in the studios, but when he gets here, we will get him here on board. Now, there is a story that is coming out of Al Jazeera, which says the US is already at war with Venezuela. Trump's violent new tactics build on years of US sanctions and interventions that have devastated ordinary Venezuelans. So on Wednesday, the United States hijacked an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, a new move in the ongoing aggression against a South American nation by the administration of US President Donald Trump. Over recent months, the US has gone about wantonly blowing up small boats in the Caribbean Sea along with their passengers, whom Trump has telepathically divined or to be drug traffickers. So he is suggesting that anybody who is on the high seas that they deem to be drug traffickers. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Kamala just gave the U.S. Permission to use all our commercial airports, right? And that is also happening in the DR also, where they are giving the United States permission to use I think that there's a military base in San Isidro, and also to use the international airport in Santo Domingo. So that make two countries, Trinidad and the DR, which are joining this effort. By stealing the Venezuelan oil tanker, the USA confirmed what everybody already knew. This is about oil. They just couldn't help themselves. It was too sweet to pass up of course, another provocation. Absolutely. That is definitely now that they're not hiding it, that they do need the nation's oil. The US war versus Venezuela is most likely timed for the US midterm elections, and that's a possibility. And I know that some weeks ago, you would see the Trinidad Guardian and also the newspapers in Guyana reporting a lot, particularly the Trinidad Guardian will be reporting on the Trinidad Express a lot on the war efforts. They do present some things, but not as aggressively as they used to do. So the silence is deafening. And sometimes when the US is silent, then that is when they strike. We hope not, but we have to also be alert. Didn't that vessel fly a Guyana flag? It is possible. It is possible. I'm not sure. I've not heard about that. But it is possible that it might have, Guyanese flag might have been on it, because right now we're hearing that our flags have to be on boats, because if they're not on boats, then we can be blown up. Isn't that strange that if you don't have your country's flag attached to a boat, or if a country's flag is not attached to your boat, either a dumb boat, it means therefore that the United States and the people, the security personnel, they have the rights to blow up, to strike your boat. Now, these are some very dangerous times in which we're living. Now, what's going to happen to us when they go on land? And they're asking us to identify ourselves. Do we have to have IDs? And if we do not identify ourselves, then we can also be shot. We can be struck at. These are very dangerous precedents that we are, watching being set in the Caribbean region. And for that reason, we're having this live, and we will be joined by Mr. Perreira shortly. Hope he'll be here very soon. Now, exercising his passion for ridiculous overstatement, Trump proclaimed on Wednesday that the seized vessel was a large tanker, very large, largest one ever seized, actually. For somebody to be saying that, and proud to have seized something that does not belong to you. But hear this also, Trump also seized another vessel that was in the Pacific Ocean, right? That was carrying was it carrying weapons to Iran? Chinese weapon to Iran that he actually intercepted and struck. Well, I don't know if he struck them as much as he stopped them, right? So it means therefore that and seized that boat as that ship, whatever they were carrying, the Chinese weapons in to Iran. So it means, therefore, the United States is getting more aggressive, not only in the Caribbean waters. And one would have thought that the United States, in its new national security strategy document, they were saying that they only should control the Western Hemisphere, our side of the universe, and that China should control, the Pacific Ocean. But if you're stopping a ship that is going from China to Iran with Chinese equipment, war equipment, military equipment, it means therefore that the United States is suggesting that it's not saying what it's saying, not what it's doing, right? So it is saying to us that China should control that side of the hemisphere and the United States this side of the hemisphere. But if you are now seizing China, vessel that is transporting war equipment from China to Iran, it means therefore that the United States wants it all. Now, some manufacturers just concluded a webinar discussing the implications of war on their businesses, especially on airspaces will be at lockdown, right, and sea routes too. And we're wondering, when you say manufacturers in Trinidad, are you suggesting, is that, Anon, are you in Trinidad? Yeah, I'm sure they would be concerned about that. Because if they are going to be every day is something new and we don't know what really is happening, and investors also in these countries and people who are, trying to do business with the country might not want to do it because they don't know if their safety will be guaranteed. So definitely business is going to be affected and perhaps is already being affected. And we're talking about Christmas season also where people get a lot of business. So this is going to affect them big time. Shouldn't they try now to push away all of that war rhetoric and try to have the season be jolly and well? But it doesn't seem like they have any sort. Oh yeah, you're in Trinidad, right? It doesn't seem like they have any sort of respect, even for Christmas. Even though they're saying that they're Christians, right? They don't have any respect for the Yuletide season in terms of giving us a break. We've gone through a very, very rough year, so at least they could give us a break from these war rhetoric. International law is dead, absolutely, and the US and its NATO allies will make sure that it stays dead and can't touch them. The only way to change this is to get rid of the UN Security Council veto. UN democracy. Yeah, that is true. Now, what I don't understand though, Stadex, is the fact that, we have China, we have Russia, these two great powers on the United Nations Council, and it seems to me that the United States gets whatever it wants. Is it because the United Nations is on US soil? So what is their purpose? What is China's purpose, and also Russia's purpose being on the United Nations Security Council? If they cannot veto something, if they cannot push the United Nations and their authorities to get something done and to stop this war, you really sometimes wonder what is really happening at the United Nations. Is the United Nations even functional? I don't think so. And the fact that you said international law is dead, it means that the United Nations also is dead. The United Nations, along with international law, are dead. They're not functioning in the way that they should function. And it really, begs to ask the question that we have to ask, are they really for real? Are they really for real? Or is it something that they're just there to just behave as if they're, protecting us? But I don't know of any war since the United Nations has been founded that it has ever stopped. All the wars that have been waged just seem like they had to be waged, and they, it supports it. It talks a lot, but at the end of the day, it does not get anything done. So, what is the purpose of the United Nations? And that is what we should ask. Now, regarding the fate of the tanker's valuable contents, Trump remarked, I assume we are going to keep the oil. That's what he's saying, and he's saying it so blatantly and without any shame. To be sure, this comment doesn't do much to shore up the U.S. claim that it's not after Venezuela's vast oil reserves at all, but is simply trying to guard the hemisphere against nefarious Venezuelan narco-terrorists endeavoring to flood the homeland with fentanyl and other deadly products. But we understand that fentanyl is not coming out of Venezuela. Fentanyl is coming out of China and it goes through to Mexico. So I'm not sure why Trump is repeating this lie, and the media and the people are not, and the Congress are not holding him accountable, because this is a blatant lie. We know that fentanyl is not coming out of Venezuela, and people are suggesting even the cocaine that passes through Venezuela goes more to South America, and not South America, to Europe and to Africa. Okay, so I don't know what he's saying here. It's a blatant lie. I hope the Caribbean stay peaceful, but this should be lesson learned for Caribbean nations. Yes, it should, because it seems that we are in trouble. Finally, our PM has come clean to some extent to the population. After all, the inconsistencies, terminal inexactitudes, etc. Yeah, and so is she now saying that there is going to be war? Is that now, when you say she's clear, are you now suggesting that, is she saying now that it is going to be war? Is she now declaring that? Because she has been saying that, no, there's not going to be any war, and when things are going to change, she will, she'll advise you if your life is going to be in danger. But I'm not sure what she's saying in recent times. The UN is dead. You are correct. The UN is part of the problem and not the solution. Right. And some people have been saying that perhaps we should take the UN out of the United States. It should be transferred, maybe relocated to another country, right? Because right now the United States controls the United Nations. Because the fact that Nicolas Maduro wasn't able to make it to the United Nations, and that is a body that he should have been able to go there. They should have allowed him even a temporary visa to get to the United Nations to articulate his point, and for the other countries to listen to him and to see how the matter could have been remedied. But the fact that they didn't allow him and didn't allow Venezuela to give its side of the story means that they're not interested in resolving any major problem, international problem. That is for sure. I'm not waiting on her to confirm her real plans. Absolutely. I don't think we have to wait on her. I think everything is there to see, right? I think Trinidad, you're right there, is sitting, you're seeing everything. She spoke about the fact that the military were not there, and afterwards people had videos of the military personnel, U.S. military personnel being there. The same thing about the satellite that is being installed at the A&R Robinson International Airport. At Crown Point, she said that no, and nothing, and was just for a roadway. Now we understand that it's much more than just having a roadway. It's to do many more things, including attacking Venezuela. And we're hearing now about, what do you think about the fact that they have now, intercepted drugs, and they're telling us about the ton loads of drugs that they actually were able to seize. And people have been saying that where they said that they seized the drugs, it's not coming from there. I can't remember the name of the river that in Trinidad. People who live in that neighborhood say that it is not true. So we really wonder who is telling the truth. The UN is obsolete. A multipolar world is now the era we're in. But isn't that what the UN should be doing? That's what the purpose of the UN is. The UN was there to usher us into the multipolar world, because what they were do is it's the United Nations, where we come together and we try to discuss our issues and see if there can be any resolution. So the fact that the United Nations is dead, it means therefore the multipolar world perhaps is dead. That's what I'm thinking, because how are we going to eke out a multipolar world if we don't have a body to where we can go and we can, air our grouses and so forth and so on. Now, it was lies upon lies as though she is approaching Pinocchio status. Absolutely. And that is true. Just telling lies after lies, because that is what she has to do, because there's no other way. As they say that, is it truth is a casualty of war, or war is, yeah, or probably the other way around. But the fact of the matter is that when you have wars, truth cannot be told. Right? Truth cannot be told, because then if you speak the truth, then people are going to realize that there should not be any war. It's a lie, because all wars are a racket, essentially. Right? So she had to lie, because if she doesn't lie, then we are going to see that the war is not necessary. The war with Nicolas Maduro is not necessary. Are there contentions? Yes. There are problems, there are conflicts, and we're not here to suggest that Nicolas Maduro is innocent and he's a Christian and he's a saint. I am not here suggesting that. What we're here suggesting that there are problems, there are conflicts on the table. Let's see if we can talk and discuss them diplomatically and see how much we can resolve them rather than going to war. But we're not here suggesting that Venezuela is entirely innocent, right? Even though we know that she's not the provocateur of war, because if Venezuela wanted war, first of all, Venezuela does not have a lot of money. Their resources have all been locked up and the assets seized and frozen. So Venezuela does not have the capacity to wage war at the moment, even if they wanted to. They can't. The UN is dead. I think fentanyl, as somebody's saying here, components are imported by Canadian labs, right, from China, absolutely. Then the final product, fentanyl, is exported to the US with the complicity of three letter security agencies, absolutely, and the pharmaceutical companies. Right. All of these three-letter agencies, including the big pharma, right, the pharmaceutical companies. So all of that are known facts, and it's almost like Trump is allowed to say these things and get away with them. And at the end of the day, what really irks me is that people's lives are going to be lost. People's lives are on the table, right? And they're lying to us. And if there's a bomb or something, an explosion, people's lives are on the table. And we don't want that to happen, because this is something that should be avoided in the first place. We know it won't stop at Venezuela. Absolutely. Like you say, war is a racket, $1 trillion military budget. And that is what we know, JWO. That is what we know. The black budget is another black budget that they're saying that Congress, the members of Congress, don't even know how much money is dedicated towards war. But we do know from the transparent budget that they do budget $1 trillion per annum for that war. So can you imagine if for the black budget, they probably have another $1 trillion, who knows, right? So they have stacked a lot of money into war efforts. Now, does anybody doubt that the U.S. has been smuggling guns into the Caribbean, Latin America, to destabilize our lands, to be able to change governments, to have underworld allies who can get things done for them? Absolutely, that's what they're doing. That is exactly what they're doing. And they have been doing that for years. And what is sad is that it takes war and times like these, times of tension, for our citizens to wake up, right? For years, people have been saying these things, and we trust our government so much that we did not challenge them on these things. And every time we always say, oh yes, go and kill the man at the lower, the drug runner, the one who is pushing drugs on the streets. We want to attack them, but we don't want to attack our government, who they are the ones, and the business elites who are involved in these nefarious activities. And that's the problem we're facing right now. It is sad. Dominican Republic fills Haiti with guns and drugs, absolutely. And that is what happened. That's a known fact. And whenever they come to like the military now going to Trinidad, the US military, they're going to stack it up with more drugs and guns. So it's interesting to know too that Kamla, Mrs. Person Bissessor, is coming out with what's the gun law there in Trinidad, where you can use a gun if somebody have a home invasion, you can use the firearm to shoot that person. It's interesting that they're doing that now when we have the heavy presence of the Marines and US soldiers in Trinidad. That law is coming to fruition. Isn't it interesting? Interesting. Is that coincidental? Maybe it's not. Caribbean people still think the US would never do that. We watch too much Hollywood movies. Absolutely. That's what I've been saying. And in Hollywood movies, the US is always the hero brainwashing. Absolutely. They think they're watching a Western and the United States is just going to go into Venezuela and, and hit Nicolas Maduro or get him out. And then the Caribbean is going to be left in peace. That is not going to happen for sure. Yeah, stand your ground, right? The stand your ground law that Mrs. Person Besessor has just recently implemented. I mean, it has some good element to it because, we need to be able to defend ourselves. I'm not going to now say that it is entirely bad. But what I'm saying is that isn't it coincidental that law is being implemented just when this is about to start with Venezuela and the fact that that Trinidad is now about to be inundated with lots of guns and drugs coming from the US and probably from other shores. That is something that you have to look out and for. Something that the guest last night spoke about to Mr. Patrick Wood is that Trinidad is almost like becoming like a new Panama, a new frontier for the United States in the region as Panama is. All right, so that too, we have to look carefully at that. Right, the law, right, it's a law that she has come out with, and that was interesting. The state of emergency, all of what is happening, and then the gun laws. Then we have the what I would like to see though, Trinidadians, those of you in the chat, are they going to have carnival? Because if they're going to have carnival and they didn't allow you guys to have independence, something is wrong. Right? If they're going to allow you to have those, street marches and the dances and all of the festivals that come with Carnival, and they didn't allow any independence celebrations last August, it means therefore something is definitely wrong with that sort of optics. Because, according to, she said, the only thing I would say, man, I would give them a pass for that is that the carnival would have costed the country. So probably from that perspective, so maybe we'd have to see what she's saying. It does sound logical because she was saying that, the independence, the parade costs a lot of money. So she might not have been able to do that. But the carnival perhaps is not run by the government. Trinis can hardly get any legal gun. What is the use of standard? Right, especially in a state of emergency. How are you going to have all these gun laws in a state of emergency? So are you saying now, State X, that it might be that the guns are going to be in the hands of the criminals? It's going to be that the guns are in the hands of the criminals, and the people, the ordinary citizens, are the ones who are not going to have the guns to defend themselves with that stand your ground law. Trinis can hardly get any legal gun. What is the use of stand your ground laws except for a few elites who probably asked for it while drinking tea with the PM? Absolutely. And maybe they too can defend themselves from the population, right? Maybe too, the stand your ground is for the politicians and for the economic elites, whom the populace are going to be crazy mad with very soon, because they're going to say, you guys know all of what you knew and did not share it with us, and look at the consequences of the war. And I think that is going to be a problem, right? I think that is going to be problematic. So that's an interesting comment, Stadex, that Trinis can hardly even get legal guns. So, and with the economy also not doing well, people don't have the sort of luxury now to go and buy guns, right? They have to think about education, healthcare, and basic things rather, even though, of course, your life is important. But if somebody has to choose between education, food, and healthcare, they're going to choose the three latter ones, and not the former, rather, and not gun, right? Buying a gun, that is something for people, perhaps, who have some money to spare. So this is something that we have to watch. I hope that there is not going to be a war. I am praying, I'm hoping that those war efforts, something divine intervention. I saw that there was an article in the Trinidadian Guardian this morning, Trinidad Guardian rather, that in which the editor was actually praying for divine intervention. And I think we need that now. Trinidadians need that. The Caribbean region and Latin American region need divine intervention, because this is serious. And I've been saying to people, this is not a distraction. Many people think that, oh, it's a distraction and the US is going to be eventually move around and so. And we're not saying that it might not be stayed. It perhaps can be postponed, probably for this year, for next year. We don't know when. But the United States has been at Venezuela since 2000. Some people say 1999 when Hugo Chavez came into power. All right, they have been at, but they started the aggression from 2002 for sure and onwards. From Bush to Obama to the first Trump's first administration to Biden and back to Trump 2.0. They have been at Venezuela. So this is not a distraction. It can't be a distraction because they have been just like Iraq. It wasn't like yesterday they were there like 20 years or more they were planning to attack Iraq, right? So we know that eventually it's going to happen. It might not happen this year, it might not happen next year, but we still should not let our guard down. We should still follow what is happening and try to be alert. They're here to stay. Mr. Pereira. Guess what? It just came back. Mr. Pereira,
Yes,
I apologize. Hello, it just came back and I came on.
yeah. The
And thank
great
you so much
Satan
for
is
waiting.
busy.
Yes, yes, yes. And we were there having a wonderful discussion. And because you were, I'm so sorry you didn't join before because you weren't on the stage. So you would not have
Yeah.
been able to continue with the
We had
live for
we
me.
had a power
Yes,
failure here, man. It's a regular thing.
yes, yeah. And it seems to me that since the war efforts, I've been hearing a lot of explosion here in
Yeah,
recent times. Boom.
yeah,
And then the thing is gone.
yeah.
So we were looking at the fact that we're wondering if there's going to be a war, or based on what your observations are, what would you say to people right now?
Well, first of all, let me update you. I was
Yes,
invited. I was invited to a conference of anti-fascist forces in Caracas a couple of days ago.
yes,
More than two
yes.
thousand persons were invited. I tried to
Mm-hmm.
get the connection, but Trump said warning to drug runners and pilots of airlines going through. That the U.S., the global policeman, the great Satan, the bully,
Yes,
warning everyone not to fly over Venezuelan airspace, or else you can be shot down.
yes.
Well,
I
I
remember.
was
Yes,
prepared. I didn't
yes,
mind. I
yes,
said, to hell with the demon Trump, and I was going. But we had some
yes.
problems with the connections, and I returned. And half of
Oh,
those who were invited could not make it. But Andrew, keep up the good work. Let me say this:
yes,
there, I think we should stop talking about international law. Let's
yes,
stop talking.
yes,
There is no
yes.
international law.
International law.
The
Yes,
US and Israel is doing what the hell they like, and no one
yes,
can rein them in. Now, I have been saying this for some time, Andrew, not advocating it. Human beings react differently. We all react differently when under pressure. Okay?
yes,
You saw what happened in Australia. A
yes,
father and a
yes.
son went out and shot more and killed 15 Jews, or what they can refer to as Jews. But I don't count
Mm-hmm.
those people not Jews, but that's another thing.
As Jews, yes,
Yes.
yes,
I am not saying that I endorse that, but just think about this. I'm going to give you an example of an incident that happened in Lebanon. A man left his home. He left his wife and children, his mother-in-law, and everyone. They were planning. They were
yes.
going to have a zimi, which you call like a feast, a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
He went
Mm-hmm.
to the market to get some things, and on his way back, he saw all these plumes of smoke, the area cordoned off, and the police and the fire service, only to find out that his entire family, that area was bombed, and his entire family died. He lost his wife,
Wow.
his mother-in-law, all his children, 5 children. Now, just think about it. You know what that man did? That man went and obtained a belt with explosives, walked into a cafe where they had Israeli soldiers, citizens, and blew himself up because he felt there is nothing more to live for. Now, it's a
Yes.
dialect reaction with reaction. When you do things like that, the war, 2 years of genocide supported by the
Yes.
US, Britain,
Yes.
France, and the EU, the European Union.
Yes.
These are the hypocrites
Yes.
that like to tell us in the global south, but democracy, right? But now what we've seen is this this face, this facade of liberal democracy is
It
off,
is.
and we're witnessing naked fascism. So
Absolutely.
Trump is threatening everyone, and you know they just seize that's piracy. They just seize the ship with oil leaving from Venezuela. The oil is intended for, there's some saying,
Cuba.
Iran, or so, but it's
some say
really for
Cuba.
Cuba. Good.
Yes.
So you have the United States under Trump. It's always been like that, but Trump is more blatant, more aggressive, more ignorant. And we have some people who still want to say that they're defending American position. I was talking to you about this Indian Hindu ethnic supremacist group. One of them wrote
Yes, I
a letter
remember.
today in the local papers, actually ignoring all that is happening and supporting Trump. I am telling you this, as Lenin once pointed out. You remember the autocratic Tsarist regime? The war led
Yes.
to a revolution, onto the Russian
But
Revolution. If we have a war, it's going to bring the downfall of those governments that are enabling the Americans. And we have put them on notice,
yes.
because if you go to war with Venezuela, you're opening up Pandora's box. Good? Because everywhere the US went in, whether it's Afghanistan, whether it's Libya, whether it's Somalia, whether it's Iraq, you leave countries that are in chaos. And a war with
Yes.
Venezuela
Yes.
is not going to be nice for Guyana and Trinidad and the region. Gangs are going to arm themselves. There will be a flow of weaponry. And how people will be crossing the borders. I do not want a war, and like all peace-loving people, we don't want a war.
We don't
But
want a
if there
war.
is war,
Yes.
I can see it leading to mass upheaval. And the duty
Yes.
of progressive and revolutionary forces is to prepare ourselves. Because when there's a
Yes.
flow of weaponry, I make no apology for it. I make no apology for it. We are going to, if I'm not going to say it, but we are going to confront the regime. We are going to confront them, as Malcolm X said, by any means necessary.
Yes. Yes. Now there was also another ship that was intercepted in I think the West Pacific Ocean, where that ship was
Yes.
transferring Chinese weaponry from
Yeah.
China to Iran, I believe, and the United States also seized that ship.
Yeah. Well,
So that
I
is
am
something
hoping.
that only
Well, this is the global policeman, right? I am hoping, and I
yes,
say that I am hoping that the next time, if possible, the Chinese should sink that ship. Sink them.
yes,
I think this is,
yes.
my brother, this is not academic discourse and discussion. We are people who are in the trenches
You're correct.
fighting.
You're correct.
We're up
We have to call it what
against,
it
this
is.
is the great Satan, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do not have these people. Look, there's an EU delegation met with some representatives of the government in Guyana. And these people have the gall, they're barefaced, to come and say that they're talking about how to strengthen democratic institutions and all that. I want to be around at any forum. And Brother Andrew, you're going to hear, it's going to reach there. Because all the
Yes.
politicians in Guyana, all the politicians, they're afraid of these white
In the
demons. I
Caribbean.
am not a politician, I'm
Mm-hmm.
a revolutionary. I'm committed to the
Mm-hmm.
overthrow of this neo-colonial regimes you have. And I will fight until I depart this world. Because my ancestors came into this region. They were enslaved. They built the economies and societies of West Europe, the West European countries, and North America and the United States, right? The enslaved Africans. We're all connected. The slave ship dropped off some in Jamaica, some in Cuba, some in Barbados, some in Trinidad, some in Guyana.
Yes.
Good? And
Yes.
our experience is different to those who were indentured servants. They're not the same. They're not the same. And we have a group of people, we have some people who are batting for Trump and openly batting for US aggression.
But we know
Right?
that is going to be fatal as the United States. That to be a
That's right.
friend of the United States
And
is fatal.
yes,
So we
and we
know
have
that
put,
it's not going to end up well. Yes.
yes. So Kamla Bisesa Pasad and Orphan Ali in Guyana, and all of those who are willing to be what Mao Zedong referred to as running dogs of imperialism, let them go ahead. But But this is not going to end nice. It's not going to end good. It's not going to end good.
Now, on the ground, you were on the ground. Has daily life changed in recent weeks in ways that suggest preparations for conflict? Are you seeing how are the Venezuelans responding to this war effort? Did you speak to any of them?
Look, let me tell you, I have always advocated that Venezuela is our neighbor and we cannot alter, change that dynamic. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We have a territorial issue with Venezuela. That is a
Yes.
colonial making. That was made by the
Correct.
colonialists. Good?
Yes.
But we have to talk. America is not interested in Guyana. America is only interested in the resources that Guyana have, as well as the resources, the vast resources that Venezuela also have.
And
Good?
Trinidad, yes.
And
Yes.
Trinidad.
Yes.
And Trinidad. So, as I pointed out on many occasions, on the territorial issue, the United States has always supported Venezuela. Always. Against when they had the Chedi Jagan government and when Forbes Burnham was in. Now, as we pointed out, now that there is a government and a revolutionary process in Venezuela that the US is hostile to, the US now appears as a friend of Guyana. And these political dunces and opportunists don't seem to understand this. That America, as Henry Kissinger said, has no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, only permanent interests.
Correct.
But you know what?
Correct.
You know what? They are afraid. I tell you, Andrew, I have seen on numerous occasions where our politicians, when in the presence of US diplomats, and whether they're the ambassadors, high commissioners, or like when Marco Rubio and them roll in, and you see how these people behave. They behave like children that know they ought to know their place.
Yeah. Last week, Bill Clinton was in Jamaica, and I don't know if you saw how they were just like he was this. They were just awed by his presence, and you and I know what Bill Clinton is about.
Bill Clinton. This is the man who said, I did not have a relationship with Monica Lewinsky. He lied.
Yeah.
And he came in and these people with him. If a black leader, if Mugabe had done that, how would we react it?
Absolutely. Not only that, what he did to Haiti and the foundation of stealing all of that money. And we are looking, he's down there to assess the damage of hurricane.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. But the awe in which they looked at him and the audacity to even be hosting him there, it shows us that we don't learn our lessons. We will never learn our lessons.
No. We are prepared. Is something at this deep psychological. It's amazing how many of us are prepared to forgive and ignore the sins of white leaders. But when it comes to our own, we're hard on them. You know?
You're right.
I mean,
you're right.
But I'm seeing a comment saying we need to stand up as a people. Definitely. Our governments are weak. They're pathetic. They are not, as I pointed out on on many occasions, and I've written about this. Gone are the days of the Errol Barrows, the Manleys, the Forbes Burnham, and those people who stood up for CARICOM, speaking with one voice. Barbados is holding its end, but Barbados is one small country. CARICOM, we have seen Jamaica, Trinidad, and Guyana, and it looks like the same is going to happen with the NDP, the National New Democratic Party in St. Vincent, following the American bogus narrative, the lies. And then we talk about sovereignty and independence.
I did a video
America has no respect.
on yes, I did a video on Mia Motley and Mrs. Person Becessor, and
Yes,
I looked at the fact that one was being used on the left, that's on Biden's side, to have done what they're doing in Haiti, and that was Mia Motley, and
yes,
the other one now, that's Mrs. Person Becessor, is used by Trump to do what Trump decides to do in Venezuela. So both of them are of the same ilk. They
yeah,
different parties. They support different parties in the United States. Miss Mia Mottley supports the Democratic Party
yeah,
and U.S. imperialism under that party, while
yeah.
Mrs. Person Becessor supports the Republican Party and imperialism, U.S. imperialism under that party. What do you say?
Yes. With the That's with Kamala. I just There was a
Yes,
blur there.
and
Could you repeat it, Andrew? Sorry.
yeah, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I was saying that Miss Mia Mottley, under
Yes,
the Biden administration, she supported U.S. imperialism in Haiti,
yeah,
right? She was at the helm of the council, the Haitian council that is in Haiti, that Haitians have said is not helping them to bring democracy, right? Now, fast forward to Trump's reign, Mrs. Person Becessor of Trinidad and Tobago, she's now supporting U.S. imperialism in Venezuela. So what we see, we have our Caribbean leaders, two strong women and two women in the Caribbean as prime ministers who are supporting U.S. imperialism under different parties.
yeah. Well, let me put it this way: these are the contradictions that we see there, and that we have to live with, because you know the those parties, most the Barbados Labour Party is a social democratic formation, and
Yes,
I the UNC is, I think, the UNC under the days of Pandey, and the UNC now has moved tremendously to the right. I
right.
always I know the reality is that we live in these people's so-called backyard, and
Mm-hmm.
they tend to they apply they a lot of you know a lot of Caribbean citizens are not aware of the pressure and the bullyism that the US puts on these countries. And one of the mistakes of our leaders is they do not tell the people. They don't
Yes,
level with the people. You know how you know
yes.
about it? A diplomat, two diplomats might share it with you and me, and that is how it is done.
Or a
I
leak,
believe,
or a leak.
yes, yes.
Yes,
When these
yes.
people bully you, you should come out and tell the people, look, I know for a fact that when they had the meeting, when former Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves was organizing the meeting, in the Argyle meeting between President Ali and President Maduro, there was pressure from the United States and Britain on Ralph Gonsalves not to bring off that meeting.
Yes. But
You know,
Gonzalez was on the Haitian
yes, well,
Gonzalez
they
and Miss
aired
Miamont
there.
were on the
Many people,
Haitian imperialism.
they
Right.
aired
So there
many of
so
them. They made a big mistake in relation to Haiti, and I did a piece on Haiti, because you can't take a brush and tar everyone and say they're all gangs. They're gangs that are supported by the Haitian bourgeoisie,
mm-hmm,
and there is
mm-hmm.
a group led by Jimmy Cerise, an alliance that has gone beyond what is defined as a gang. I
Yes.
listened to him on a webinar, and I think he was good in the analysis he made of what is taking place
Well
in Haiti.
well,
Right?
Jemima Pear, I'm sure you know her, right? You know Jemima Pear. She
Yeah.
said that Miss Mia Motley was like a bully. If you didn't accept what the US was going to do in Haiti, she went to different people and she told them that they had no choice. She said that she heard from reliable sources that that is the role that she played in Kingston. Go ahead, Mr. Pereira.
Look at that. Well, I know. I wrote a piece on that. In fact, I should send it to you, where I came out against
Mm-hmm.
CARICOM on Haiti. And you see, CARICOM was listening to a lot of the people Carrie come listen to are people who are not on the ground. Many of them don't live in Haiti. Some live
Yes.
in Los Angeles, some in Jamaica. And
Yes.
information is really, I am in touch with people who I'm in contact with people who are on the ground. And they send you something different. And if you listen, you make it that you'll see where it's going. I mean, you know, Sherry Zale started off as a policeman, as part of a servant of the section of the repressive arm of the state, the police. But he saw what was going on. He saw how the wealthy were getting away with, could commit crimes and get away with it, and what they were doing. And he got a rude awakening. Good. Franz Fanon addressed that in The Wretched of the Earth. That the so-called, what the orthodox Marxists or liberals call the lumpen proletariat, the class elements of society, the prostitutes, the criminals.
Yes.
They have the potential to become revolutionary, to develop revolutionary consciousness. Malcolm X was a pimp and a drug dealer.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
George Jackson went to prison for a crime he didn't commit, and look what he wrote. Prison letters of George Jackson, Blood in My Eye. Look at many of the people who were in the Black Panthers.
Marcus Garvey went to prison too, right?
Human beings are redeemable. You know, if human beings were not, if for those who are Christians, and it goes to for all the prophets that God sent, if human beings were all totally lost and not redeemable, then there will be no need for God to send the prophets to us. So you can't just sit down and say Cherry's there was this, and no. You know, and they send the Kenyan police in there and soldiers, and they have not been able to take control.
Because they don't want to, Mr.
Mercenaries, they can't.
Yeah. They don't want to because they control it. And that's the whole point. They control what is happening. They control the chaos that is there. Because it's when they have chaos that they can't control us, you know. Or, well, they can control us. When there's chaos, they can control us. When there's no chaos, it's very difficult for them to control us. So that is organized chaos. And that's what they're doing in Trinidad, in Guyana, and also in Venezuela. That's about to happen now. They're having organized chaos. Now, did you hear Pete Hegseth having the audacity to say anybody who touches an American citizen, you know, and we, of course, we don't want anybody to touch an American citizen, but let me say that, let us say you're fighting because you have to fight and you have to defend your territory and American citizen dies, you are going to be in trouble. He says that you're going to die. You shall be killed if you touch an American citizen. And I'm sure he's referring to the soldiers who are there, who they are so-called protecting Trinidad and Guyana. Go ahead, Mr. Perreira.
I think the armed forces, whether they're in Guyana, whether they're in Trinidad, the same way this lunatic Hegseth is committed to putting America first and at the expense of sovereign, he total disrespect for sovereign and independent nation states like in the Caribbean or whatever's left of our sovereignty and independence. Our armed forces, be it them, whether it's in Trinidad, Guyana, Jamaica, whichever country, they have their commitment and their commitment and pledge is to our constitution and to the territorial defense of our country. And they should put, the soldiers in Trinidad should put Trinidad first. And the same goes for Guyana right across. And if American soldiers violate our territorial integrity and trample on our sovereignty, then our soldiers have a right to shoot at them. And to hell with Hegseth. To hell with him. They are demons. They are demons. But the empire knows that it's going down. Right? I was listening to Abby Martin.
Yeah, Abby Martin.
Well, at least, you know, it's no
Hmm.
longer this. All the pretense has been removed.
It
You have
has.
to be an
They have.
absolute jackass to believe that what you're seeing in America is anything but democracy or the West. The West
Hmm.
likes to point
Hmm.
out who's authoritarian, but we are seeing
Yes.
the hypocrisy, the double standards of liberal democracy. We know
Yes.
many moons ago, based on our study of the history of Western Europe and the origin of liberal democracy, that it was a con from the inception. It is a con.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
that system
Yes.
was imposed on colonies, and we're still paying the price. And that's why, after we've seen after 55, 60 years of independence, whether it's in the Caribbean, whether it's in Africa, where we were colonized under the French or the British, tell me where Africa is today. Have we gone?
Y-
Look at
Yeah.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
And as we
Yeah.
say, the
Yeah.
only solution is revolution. People's
Yeah.
revolution that will overthrow our backward, ignorant, neo-colonial elites who are just happy to hold on to the tail of a drowning cow.
Hmm. Hmm. Now we are looking at also the national security strategy document that was just came out last week from Trump. And he's suggesting that they are, in fact, the owners of the Western Empire, Western Hemisphere. So it means, therefore, and they're saying they're calling on their allies, on their partners, such as Trinidad and all the Caribbean countries, that they're here to protect us. But guess what? They're not going to pay for the price for our security. We have to pay that price. So I'm sure very soon our governments are going to be telling us that they have to allocate a certain amount of the budget toward security, national security. Did you read that portion? What were your,
Yes,
what
well,
do you
when
think?
the
What are your
governments,
thoughts on that?
when we, yeah, I saw it. When if we do reach that point, then as I'm seeing here, we need to stand up as a people. I think our people should come into the streets and revolt. That is what we need. The United
Yeah.
States, this is arrogance. This is contempt for our sovereignty and independence. And all those leaders who are willing to go along with the American, this American bullyism, they are going to pay a price. Believe me, they are going to pay a
Mm-hmm.
price because our countries
Mm-hmm.
are going to become ungovernable. They will not be able to govern
Yes.
because
Well, that's
because
what they're looking forward to.
yeah, that's what they want.
Yeah,
But
that's
Andrew,
what they want. That's what they want.
Andrew, let me tell you,
Yes.
the only entity in this world I am afraid of is my creator. And he doesn't want you to be afraid of him.
Yes.
When I said I use afraid, because
Yes.
he will
Yes.
decide
Yes.
whether you will get eternal life or final death. Because this death is
Mhm.
not the real death. This death is just the
Yes.
opening of a door going through another door. So the
Mhm.
real life begins beyond the grave. So
Mhm.
I do not care, their visas, they block you, you can't get visas. But I born in Guyana. My navel string is buried in Guyana. And if the United States, there are people, if one man got to stand up, I am going to stand up. I'm prepared to die. So to hell with Hexet, to hell with Trump, and to hell with all those Caribbean leaders who are nothing but running
What?
dogs of imperialism.
Yes.
Kamla
What is?
Misesa Prasad is a
What is
running dog of imperialism, and so is Orphan Ali.
correct? Correct, correct. What is very frightening about this national security document is if we begin now to become a part of the national security empire of the United States, then they will now have a right to recraft our laws and say who is Jamaican, who is Guyanese, who is Trinidadian, because that is
Over
what
their
they're doing to
body,
Americans too.
over their
Yeah,
dead
that's
body.
what they're doing to Americans. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that is what, and we have to be very alert in terms of allowing the United States to
yeah.
be using our government to decipher how we define national security. Because in the
That's right.
United States, many of them are finding out now that even citizens there are being run after ICE. You see them running because ICE is running after American citizens and saying,
It's
"Show me your
fascism.
ID," or
It's fascism. This is
yeah,
what
yeah,
what the
yeah,
ICE is doing. And this is what these fools don't understand. What ICE is doing is exactly what the Gestapo did in
That's it.
Germany. The Nazi
That's it.
secret, the Nazi secret police. That is what the
Yeah.
Gestapo did. You know, and
Yeah.
you're seeing the
Yeah.
similarities. You're seeing what Trump is doing. Good.
Yes.
What Trump is doing is exactly what the Gestapo did during Hitler's reign of terror.
Yes. Yes. Another concrete evidence we have to look at is the fact that Mrs. Predecessor said something very worrisome the other day. She said that if you do not have a flag attached to your speedboat, if you're on the high seas and you're going fishing, whatever, and you don't have your national flag attached to your boat, you are considered a pirate. And on that basis, rather, the US or anybody can strike you. What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Well, you know, as I said earlier, the United States is a rogue state. The United States and Israel can do what they like and get away with it. Right? They can do it, and the reason they can get away with it is because we have misleaders who allow them to do so, who play along, play to the narrative, and go along with it. Now, I am seeing you saw what happened in Benin.
Yes.
There was a coup, and the coup was all the rebels troops had taken control of numerous areas, but the French came in, the French and the Nigerians came in, and the French started bombing areas that were held by the rebels and Nigeria. This is the same Nigeria that cannot even recapture areas that are under the control of Boko Haram. But they went with France because they know that Benin was going to team up with the Sahel countries. Because what we're seeing is coups are back in fashion. You know, coups are back in fashion. We had enough of this neoliberal economics and elections every 4 and 5 years that have done nothing for Africa, nothing whatsoever, nothing.
And the
And the
Caribbean.
time, what we need now, the time has come for the global southern countries. Imagine a united Africa and countries in the same way the US can sanction countries. We can sanction the US. We can make things difficult for the United States. You know, you remember, I think when Lula first term, when Lula was elected president in his first term,
of Brazil.
the Americans had a thing where Brazilians had to get their visas and lined up special lines and all of that, right? And Lula said when American citizens come, you'll have to join a line and go through certain things. They did it. Brazil did it. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
And he did something else, Mr. Perreira.
Yeah.
He did something else to Lula, did something else to where other countries, United States, when they had IMF loans or whatever, in that loan agreement, they would have to buy arms from the US. Lula said, no arms. That money can be used to invest in healthcare, education, and other things. And he did it. You're correct.
That's right.
Lula da Silva
That's
did
right.
It. Yeah,
that's right. But you know, Andrew, if you study the book by Gibbon, the fall of the Roman Empire, and what Cicero said, do you know that on the eve of the collapse of the Roman Empire, there were many who did not see it?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And
yes,
this whole thing with the Americans in the Caribbean is aimed at recolonizing us. As I said, they have I told people, when you study the Monroe Doctrine, they've never taken our independence and sovereignty seriously. Never. And when you look at what they're pursuing, the United States, what they want to do, we have to, and the only alternative is for the people to hit the streets in their hundreds of thousands and march on U.S. embassies. March on the U.S. embassies in the various countries. We have to do this. You know, I don't believe that the Americans must be able to shoot down planes, and the language that Hexet talks about, we're going to kill and kill and kill people, and then their diplomats can walk around in our respective countries freely. No, 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 no. There's a
Mr.
saying,
Pereira,
though,
what is the
out, when you got Congate out, you must look for rain.
yes? We were discussing before you came. What is the role of the United Nations and countries like Russia and China who sit on the United Nations Security Council? What is their role in terms of stopping some of these things or speaking out, not just, speaking out afar, but ensuring that the United States, doesn't do what she's doing now?
Well, the Chinese, look, Russia and China, you've seen many allies being the United States and the Western nations have used to remove countries, regimes, governments they don't like. They did it in Iraq, they did it in Syria, they did it in Libya, and they're still putting pressure against the three leaders in the Sahel countries. Okay?
Yes.
The United States, it is my belief that the way China and Russia acted in this last voting in the UN Security on the issue of Palestine. I was disappointed. But sooner or later, China will be forced and Russia will be forced to take some certain positions, stands that must be taken at this time, because you see, the US is pushing and pushing and pushing, and Russia, I see the like you're going to Russia has the upper hand a long time ago. They've had the upper hand in the war in Ukraine. And I think what Trump is hustling to do is that Trump is no peacemaker. Trump is a deceiver. But Trump would like to see the war in Ukraine end so that his focus could be on China. Because Trump, this US policy is going after China in the region because the Chinese have a lot of interests as well in Venezuela. And the Chinese have done a lot in the Caribbean. So the idea is to push the Chinese out, and there's some politicians who they're going to use. It has already started. The anti-Chinese drums are already beaten. We said it was going to happen. So China and Russia need to use their muscle and veto decisions taken by the United States when the United States veto the United States in the Security Council.
Which they haven't done, and they're not doing, even against Venezuela.
The United Nations is an absolute joke. It's a joke. It's a joke. You know what? What is the purpose? We need, first of all the countries. Gaddafi advocated this years ago. The African countries and many countries in the global south need to walk out of the United Nations. We need to leave the United Nations and revisit, maybe form a new bloc, maybe beyond the non-alignment, some where countries of the global south can converge and have discussion and to protect our sovereignty and independence. This is what we need to do. You're not traveling to New York and you cannot get visa, and Trump is telling you who can come and threatening President Petro. This is naked fascism. These people are bullying us.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Pereira. Go ahead.
But we will not bow to this bully. We bow only to our creator. Only to our creator.
Yes.
We bow. Not to
Yes.
Hexet. Hexet is a representative of the great Satan. What we are seeing,
Yes.
2 years, Andrew, 2 years of genocide. Children are being killed every day. There's no, there's no, what you call peace. You know, it's Israel is killing people, killing Palestinians every day.
Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. Remember too that the United States, including Trump, they have real estate
There's no
interests in
ceasefire.
Palestine.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
there's no
have real
ceasefire.
estate in correct. Now, what do you think about Petro, as I was suggesting, Gustavo Petro suggesting that he's willing to take Maduro, to host Maduro if regime change takes place in Venezuela? What do you think about that comment that he made recently?
Well,
Did you hear? Did you?
I have I have not. If it comes to that, then uh, I mean, we see neo-colonial leaders puppets when they remove uh, Western countries take them. So if
Mm-hmm,
President Petro is saying in case of regime change, he's going to take President Maduro in, I see nothing wrong with that. But I don't think
mm-hmm,
even if you remove Maduro, you are preparing, you are going to have a long protracted war. You're going to have a protracted war in Venezuela, and it's going to
mm-hmm,
spill over. It's going to
mm-hmm,
involve Colombia and Brazil. You see,
mm-hmm,
these, Andrew, my brother, listen to this. There are many organizations in the Americas that are
mm-hmm,
anti-imperialists, and they have a lot of supporters. And I believe an American invasion of Venezuela, American troops will be bogged down in a long war. You're
mm-hmm.
talking about a big country with jungle terrain, with
Yes.
jungle, and
Yeah,
you
jungle.
are
Mhm.
in. You have guerrilla forces from Colombia who have been fighting, who have been waging guerrilla war for more than 30 something, 40 years. Some
Mhm.
of those guerrilla groups, like the FARC, for more than 50 years or very long. And those groups, you have a section of FARC is still armed, a breakaway section. And then you have the
Mhm.
National Liberation Army. So no, they don't seem to be reading this. I am saying it's going to be a Vietnam for them in Venezuela.
Mhm.
Because you
Mhm.
are dealing with a country that has a huge population and they have hundreds of thousands, more than 1 million people on the arm. And you will have to do, apart from jungle fighting, you will have to fight in close combat in all those barrios and those uh, areas that are so some of the streets and areas are mountainous and narrow, very difficult for US military vehicles to navigate.
Mhm.
They are going to be in trouble, and I think this is one of the reasons that the admiral who is in charge, who resigned, and another senior officer, I think
Mhm.
there are a number of rebels in the ranks
Mhm.
because they are seeing that this thing is not going to go down nice.
Mhm.
And rather than go down that part, they offered a number, their resignation.
Dramatic. Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I don't think the United States. I think they're moving away from military occupation as they used to having mercenaries on the ground. So you might decide to choose Venezuelans or any other mercenaries coming out of Colombia or anywhere. You pay them and they get the job done. I don't think that they want all of those troops on the ground as they used to. What do you think about
Well,
it?
14,000 troops. 14,000 troops. Well, they've always used mercenaries. They've always used
Right. To put
mercenaries. You have those, the fifth colonists, they will
right.
use them. But
Yes.
uh, they, yes, that is what they're going to do. And also, they break international law. They have no respect for
Mm-hmm.
international law. I said, what is
Right.
international law? They assassinate
Right.
leaders. They can come in. And where is this? Where is it going to stop? The next thing is going to happen because they've started. You know, they're bringing. There's something that they've just they're examining and they're going to bring it in.
Mm-hmm.
They're already started to label uh, progressive organizations and individuals, progressive podcasts and blogs.
Parties. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
they want to put
Mm-hmm.
you into the category of a terrorist.
Of terrorists. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, like
Absolutely.
Black
Yeah.
Agenda Report, countercurrents, what I am
Yes.
writing, what we are saying,
Yes.
that is the
Yes.
next thing
Mm-hmm.
they will do. And then they will
Yes.
establish the rationale why they should eliminate us.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
far fetched.
Now this.
It's not far fetched
Yes.
because this is what you
Yes.
see, Andrew. Every time you have this time for you to have your program,
It's a
look at what
problem.
is
Yeah.
happening. This is
Yes.
not technical. I have been around. This is not technical difficulties. This is downright
Yes.
sabotage,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
This is
Now,
sabotage.
this person is saying that Petro is a fake revolutionary. Would you agree with Unruly Slave 45?
Well, let me say this. If you're going to accuse someone of being a fake revolutionary, Petro is being a fake revolutionary, then the accuser can be in two categories. Either they are a serious revolutionary doing revolutionary work
Mm-hmm.
to bring about change, or they're
Mm-hmm.
sitting in an armchair somewhere just criticizing for the sake of it. President Petro was a
Mm-hmm.
former guerrilla.
Mm-hmm.
He was a former guerrilla. He picked up a gun and he was part of, I think it was M19 when they were fighting. And then
Mm-hmm.
the M19 handed in their weapons many years ago. I can recall that at the time. I was in Libya and then we heard,
Mm-hmm.
yes, because I met and I know many M19 fighters at the time. Yep, because we're there. I
Mm-hmm.
know, including
Yeah.
Navarro Wolf, who had lost a leg. But then they entered into the electoral process and he won the elections.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
have, we have to live in a world live in a real world and don't construct the world in our heads and live accordingly to what's in our heads. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
No, you take your time. Take your time.
yeah.
Yeah.
We cannot do that.
The problem. Yes. Yes.
Yes, we cannot.
Yeah. The problem is
So,
that many
so
of
what I'm
them
saying is
as mhm.
President Petro is trying. His vice president is an African woman, and
Mhm.
he has to navigate. He has to dance between the raindrops, because you have to remember that for years, Colombia and especially the Colombian armed forces was very close to the United States military. Good, and you will have senior elements in the armed forces who have connections to US intelligence agencies.
Mhm.
We're aware of this because you see, you can be in office and you still don't have power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I
Right.
like what, yes, I don't have to be, I'm not a Marxist, I'm not a Leninist, but you can learn. Lenin said that when you're bringing about transformation to empower the poor and the marginalized and the oppressed, you will have to smash the old bourgeois state. You cannot use it because those who are embedded in it, those who are there, will put obstacles in your way at every twist and turn. So what do? You create parallel institutions. So instead of depending just on the national army, you create a popular militia, people's militia, an armed militia. That
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if the military tomorrow decide to orchestrate a coup, they will be met by an armed people's resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this is what you need to do. You have an armed people,
Mm-hmm.
you have it in Libya, you have it in Cuba, you have it in Cuba, you have it in China. So you're not
Mm-hmm.
just going to fight an army alone, one army that is an institution. You have people who had military training and who, in the last minute, can answer to the call to take up arms.
Mm-hmm. 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 I guess what he probably was alluding to is the fact that if he were a sincere leftist revolutionary, that Trump would have off the bat wanted to unseat him, wanted to dethrone him. But it was because of the fact that he spoke against what Trump is doing to Maduro and the striking of boats in the Caribbean. That is why Trump decided that he was going to, impose sanction on him and his family. But outside of that, I don't think Petro was any, what do you call it now, threat to U.S. imperialism. What would you say about that?
No, I agree with you. But I think
Yes.
when Petro was elected, I think the first thing he should have done was, you have Andrew, there is no substitute. There is no substitute
Yes.
for organizing and mobilizing the people. You can
You're
mobilize
correct.
people, but you need permanent organization to maintain that mobilization. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When the Libyan revolution under Muammar Gaddafi took place in '69, one of the first things they did was to expel the British and American military bases, because they
Mm-hmm.
said we cannot proclaim sovereign, being independent and sovereign, and we have military bases in our country. But President
Mm-hmm.
Petro should have asked the United States early, and get the people of Colombia to understand that we need to remove those bases, because, as is pointed out there, once you have foreign military bases in your country, your sovereignty and
Yes.
independence is compromised.
It's compromised. Absolutely.
So what are we
Absolutely.
talking about? You cannot say
Mm-hmm.
that you're sovereign and independent and have military bases, US military bases in your country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
Petro cannot remove them and they think, then the duty is those, it is the people. The people have the right, the legitimate right, to drive them out of their country.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I've always thought that Colombia is a right-wing government. Irrespective of who goes in, the US controls them. And because of the drug trade, the history of the drug of cocaine running and the FARC and and the military bases in Colombia, that it will be difficult now to clean up everything that the US has already done.
No, well,
You know?
I won't say that President Petro government is right wing. You see,
Mm-hmm.
Andrew, there's a difference between the state and government. State, you can change governments, but
Mm-hmm.
what you have is a state. You have a state apparatus, right? That is right wing. You have in the
Mm-hmm.
Colombian military, in the Colombian, President
Mm-hmm.
Petro has to know how he's walking. There are
Yes.
elements in the Colombian military. And when I say military,
Mm-hmm.
I'm including the Navy and the Air Force, that for years were involved in drugs and drug running. And the
Yes.
US knew about
Yes.
this, because Petro himself
Absolutely.
admitted it, and he was fighting against them. So
Against it,
he
yes.
has to carry out reforms. He has to be careful because, as I said, in the absence of mass mobilization and your people in organization, you
Mm-hmm.
can get a coup. You can get a right-wing coup, or they can remove you. They have, when they can't remove you military, they instigate constitutional coups, like what they do
Correct.
President Morales. They did it in other
Mm-hmm.
countries in South America. This is what they do. So I am
Mm-hmm.
saying this. This is what I'm saying. When you had those groups that were armed fighting to overthrow the state, you told them to lay down your weapons and enter, establish yourself, become a political party, and contest elections. So,
Yes.
okay, they do that. When they contest elections and they win, you still want to remove them, either through
Mm-hmm.
military coups or constitutional coup. So it's a no-win situation. So
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
what do we do? I believe we should enter the electoral process, but as Mao Zedong said, in times of peace, you keep your weapon at your side.
Yes. Yes. So how are we going to change the system? Because the fact of the matter is that some of these economic people are the same people tied to the United States military-industrial complex. They're the ones who get you into office, into positions of power, and they control you. So it's very
Yes.
difficult to move away from US's, diktats and what they want for that particular country.
Well, Andrew, I believe in, as I said, there is no substitute for one, popular education.
Yes.
I think one of the big mistakes we have made is not raising the consciousness of our people. Paulo Freire, in his book Pedagogy of the Oppressed, spoke about
Yes.
yes, about this whole thing about decolonizing education, education for liberation, and what constitute. He speaks of conscientization,
Mm-hmm.
which is something different. Critical thinking. For two, uh, politicians, well, we know the right wing have done that, but too many on the left are guilty of this, of treating the people as objects. You know, people, we need people to let the people need to understand that they are you're your own liberator. No one can liberate you, right? But we cannot independently win our liberation. So we come together collectively in organization as conscious individuals fighting collectively for change. Good.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go on free. The slave has to want freedom. The slave has to have agency. Human beings have agency and autonomy. So
Yeah.
politically, whether you're right or left wing, that's, I always tell people who I work with, and when I talk with them, not talk to them, it's a difference who I talk with. I always say to them, whenever politicians say to you that they're fighting for you, look them in their face, straight in the eye, and tell them that they're a liar. Because I can't
Yes.
fight for anyone. What I can do is
Yes.
fight. I can fight with you. I can fight with you,
Yes.
alongside you. We can come together. We can't achieve anything individually, but as
Mm-hmm.
conscious individuals, we can come together in organization collectively and fight for human dignity, economic
Right.
justice, and true independence. This is this is what our thing. In the OVP, Organization for the Victory of the People, we say fighting for human dignity, which is
Yes.
something granted to you by your creator. It doesn't come, you don't earn it through your status or anything. By your creator, human dignity, economic justice, using the wealth of a nation to make sure that everyone has a decent standard of living.
Mm-hmm.
and share in
Mm-hmm.
the country's wealth. And there is no concentration
Yes.
of wealth either in the hands of a capitalist class or in the hands of a state bureaucracy. That's
Mm-hmm.
the other thing. And
Mm-hmm.
true independence.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Going beyond this flag and anthem nonsense that we got. You know, we have our own head of state, president, prime minister, own anthem, and it's a independence that is meaningless. Because if you
Yes.
don't have
Yes.
economic independence, your political independence is a sham.
Correct.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
How can we call ourselves in Guyana? Let's take Guyana. Every time it's when it comes around to the time for general elections,
Election. Mm-hmm.
we have the US and the British diplomats and the EU observers. They have to come in and observe to see whether we are doing this thing right. It's pathetic.
Yeah. 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 And they
It's like
control the
children
elections,
who
right?
have not
And they
grown up,
control.
children who have not grown up.
Yeah.
And these white
And they
people have to come
control.
and see how the natives,
Mm-hmm.
if we are doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
I say to hell with them. To hell. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? Here, so much to sovereignty. About 6 days ago, Alistair Rutledge, the
Yes.
CEO, the head for ExxonMobil in Guyana, you know what he said? He said,
Mm-hmm.
ExxonMobil is here to stay. We are going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard that, what went through my mind, I would not say on this program. But that is what he said. Now, when an agent of white supremacy and imperialism can say ExxonMobil is here to stay in Guyana, we are going nowhere. You know what they're saying? Look, regardless of which government come in, you can't do anything about it. We are here.
That's
Now,
what they're
you know why
saying.
you can say that?
Mm-hmm.
You know why you can talk like that? Because ExxonMobil is an arm of imperialism,
Yeah.
of US
Yeah.
imperialism. But I tell you my message to them, to someone like thing. As we say, revolution, nothing less. And when the revolution comes, we are going to run people like Alistair Rutledge out of Guyana. Literally run them
Yes.
out.
Yes. I think the 15,000 troops are there in the Caribbean waters because that is what they're there to do, to protect the resources for U.S. corporations like ExxonMobil.
That's right.
What do you think?
That's right. Of course, the U.S. said, oh, the U.S. ambassador to Guyana said, oh, if Venezuela tries anything, we're here to protect Guyana. That's a lie. That's
Yes.
a big lie.
Yes.
And if
Mm-hmm.
I want to be around when she or whoever is going to make that statement, and I'm going to look at them and say, you are a liar, shut your mouth and get the hell out of my country. I
Yes.
born in this country. I born in Guyana.
Yes. Yes.
I born in Guyana.
Yes.
I don't have dual citizenship, for no damn thing. I born in Guyana. My
Yes.
ancestors, I believe honestly, fought at 1763, the 1763 revolution uprising under Kofi Akberben Atta.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So that's in
Now,
my blood.
Mr. Perreira, yes. As we join down, as we come down to the end of the program, what do you think when you look at the entire region? Do you see young people being socially aware of what is happening? And if they're not aware, what's our future? What's the future for the region if they are totally unaware of what is happening at this given moment?
Andrew, this is something we've been discussing, activists across the region, right? And it's a very,
Yes.
very sad situation. I can recall many moons ago, Fridays at the university, man, you had different groups, and the university was a, a bed for activism and debates and all of that. You don't have that. You don't see that, right? And the young people, what we are witnessing is more people happy just to go to the university, get a degree, come out and get a job. Good. And even what they're studying is not, they're not doing disciplines that help you to develop critical consciousness or to think critically, like
Right.
philosophy, comparative
Mm-hmm.
theology, or
History. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, history. No, they're doing the STEM subjects, they're doing management
Mm-hmm.
and those things, right? Now, I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a
Mm-hmm.
problem with that, of course, certainly not. But
Yeah.
this there is corrosion of the mind. Good,
Yes.
because here what happened. The neoliberal ideology and neoliberalism is more than economics. It's more than economics. It's an attempt, as I always point out, it's an attempt at a new anthropology, right? It's aimed at creating, and they've done tremendous, they've achieved a lot in that, of creating a human, an individual, not the human person. Now it's assaulted. The human person is a different thing. An individual that is selfish, an individual that believes that I am a celebrity, I can achieve anything I want, I can do anything. So you have this thing about status and all of that. And we create a fictitious, we live in a world of a sort of a fictitious, a world of fictitious.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a world,
Not real. Mm-hmm.
it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
you have this rugged individualism that it promotes. So all of these noble principles, like that the monotheistic faiths preach, caring for your brother, looking out for your neighbor, being your brother's keeper, community, solidarity, those things are
Mm-hmm.
seen as something to principles that throw through the window.
Yes.
Greed is good. Look out for yourself. You know, don't bother with community. And what you have is this assault has created a, not only it has created a paralysis of the human spirit.
Yes.
Good. And what it has done is it has reduced us to mere homo economicus, reduced us to economic
Yes.
beings, economic man. So our
Yes.
only
Yes.
reason for being, our entire purpose is just to consume, have pleasure, hedonistic, this thing to have pleasure, live in the moment and enjoy
Mm-hmm.
what they say, enjoy life, whatever that means, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is what, after 40 years of this ideology, has done. So the young people, we don't have this level of, you know, uh, we had in Guyana, we had the somebody
Consciousness.
pointed
Yes.
it out.
Yes.
We had the People's Militia, the Young Pioneers,
Mm-hmm.
patriotism, values, you know, about love for Guyana, who are our
Mm-hmm.
heroes and sheroes, and standing up, you
Mm-hmm.
know, being proud of that.
Yes.
That is gone through. We don't even know. We have young people who come up to you and ask you, who is Clive Lloyd?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Who is Martin
Yeah.
Carter? Martin Carter is our
Yeah.
poet laureate. They do not know,
Yes. Quite par excellence. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, but they can tell you.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example
Yeah.
of something. You know, Andrew, as a trained as a theologian, you know, what did Jesus mean when he said, "My kingdom is not of this world"?
Not of this world.
What was
Yes.
he talking about? But yet he said,
Well, I
"Be in it, yet not of it," because
correct.
you're called to action in it, but you don't go with the ways of it. And
Mm-hmm.
if you look at this world, if you look at this world, you look at evil. We're living
Yeah,
in a time when we're seeing that truth is being portrayed as falsehood or
that's
wrong,
it.
and
Mm-hmm.
people
Misinformation. Yeah.
falsehood is being affirmed as truth.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If you're a person who believe standing up for what is right, for what is just, man, oh, you got the money, you have to do this, you have to get, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's about
Mm-hmm.
pursuing this this earthly, the material things of this
Mm-hmm.
world
Mm-hmm.
that are they're fleeting,
Yeah.
fleeting. And that is why
Yes.
I have always argued and what I've written that this is one of the weaknesses of the traditional left.
Yes.
We need, as much as we advocate for social and political revolution, we cannot ignore or negate the spiritual revolution. The
Mm-hmm.
spiritual
Mm-hmm.
revolution. You know,
Yes, but there hasn't been any left in the Western world since the fall of the Berlin Wall. I think that after the fall of the Soviet Union, what we have are just two right-wing parties. One is more right-wing, one is more to the right than the other, but they're two parties
no,
of the
well,
same ideology.
no, when the Eastern Bloc collapsed, and what some scholars have referred to as actually existing socialism in the Eastern Bloc. After those countries, a lot of you had parties and countries who were in power and proclaimed themselves Marxist Leninists. When the Eastern Bloc collapsed, those parties lost their bearings and opted
Mm-hmm.
for neoliberal economics. We've seen they had many cases of that. That's what happened. Good. And
Right, right.
even the social, even some of the social
Yeah,
democratic parties,
Manley, and all
yes,
these guys.
like
Yeah, they
Manly's,
opted.
yeah,
Yeah.
because there was this guy called Anthony Giddens, who
Mm-hmm.
is the mentor, ideological mentor of Tony Blair. He wrote a book called
Yes.
Third Way, right? Because there are many
Mm-hmm.
third ways, there are many third
Yes.
ways. And he wrote this book called Third Way. But his understanding of third way is going beyond the what you have, the communist type command economies and old time social democracy. But their third way,
Yes.
Anthony Giddens' third way, is more social liberalism. It's more social liberalism, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Aspects of the state being involved in the economy, and
Mm-hmm.
but allowing market forces a lot to operate, and but still holding on to aspects of classical liberalism. But it's a way between liberalism and social democracy, combining the
And
two.
social democracy. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that's what you have. That's what you have with all these. That is what the PNP in Jamaica is now. It's no longer
Mm-hmm.
the social democracy of Michael Manley. It's a social liberal
Mm-hmm.
party. Good.
Yes.
But there were many who were critical of the Eastern Bloc. But there is a resurgence of the left. You've seen Mamdani in New York, the Democratic Socialists of America, about little before Bernie Sanders run for office. They had about 10,000. They had a membership of about 10,000 across, I think it was 10,000 across the US. Today they have over 95,000 members,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and across Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Look in Russia today, in the same former Soviet Union, in the Russian Federation, the second largest and
Mm-hmm.
most powerful party in Russia after the United Russia's Putin's party, the second
Mm-hmm.
largest and most powerful and influential party is the Communist Party of the Russian Federation.
Mm-hmm.
So you see what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? There is a resurgence because look, once capitalism is there, and we have, as Rosa Luxemburg once wrote, it's the choice before us is either barbarism or socialism. And when I speak of socialism, I'm not talking about what existed in the Eastern Bloc. Socialism,
Right.
for me, I am talking about a democratic socialist tradition. I am talking about a system that will allow for real democracy, for popular participation. In other words, democracy is not electocracy where every year, 5 years, you vote and then that's it. People must be involved in the decisions that impact their lives or shape their lives. We need to create assemblies of the people. You know, like how you used to have town hall meetings in village assembly? People need to have
Yes.
a
Yes.
say. People need to have a
Yes.
say. Okay? And we cannot leave the market to regulate by itself. There is no such thing as a free market, no part of the world. Good? Because when we left the market to its own so-called self-regulating mechanism, it regulates to the few, not to the
Yes. They,
many.
because they control it. They
That's
control it.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, democracy, you can go in. Look, I like to give this example of of Britain. You look at it. You can change a party, but you don't change the economic system. That's a given. You don't vote that
Right.
out. Good.
Right.
And look at how many
Right.
people control the wealth. We live in a world. You look at countries that implemented neoliberal capitalist policies. Tell me one country after implementing that, whether for 25, 35, 40 years. Show me a country that the gap between the have and the have-nots have narrowed. It keeps widening. It keeps widening. Healthcare is a commodity. Housing is a commodity. Don't tell me but democracy and human rights. When human needs, human necessities, and I call these concrete human rights, the right to home, the right to a job, the right to health care. You cannot leave those things to the forces of the market. Because
Yes.
if you do, then if you don't have money, if you're not in a good economic position, you'll die. Do you know that in the United States, what is one of the causes of people losing their homes? You taking people got to get treatment for cancer or something, and they have to mortgage their
Healthcare.
property
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
health care, and then they can't repay it, and then they lose their property. They lose their property. And you have countries that have free health care. Libya had free health care.
Yes.
It was in Iraq under Saddam Hussein. You know, there are countries that have, Iran has free health care. And the countries that have free health care and give, you know, in Libya, it was more than a slogan. They had it, it says, the occupant of the house must be the owner of the house.
Yes. 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 Well,
Because
the U.S. could easily have free health care if they were not actually at war and investing $1 trillion in the military-industrial complex every year. They could easily have free health care. Don't you think so?
that, of course, but
Yeah.
they have a system. Yeah, but they have a system that puts profit in front of people. You know, there
Yeah.
are
But
thousands,
even
there are
so,
hundreds of thousands of people in the US homeless, and yet they have houses that are empty.
yes, but
Yeah.
even so, if they were to end the military-industrial complex and stop these wars, they still would be able to do that because think about $1 trillion in for fighting for wars every year.
Yes.
Tell me how much that could work to develop
The,
your people who
of
don't have health
course,
insurance
the
and
US
housing. Yeah.
You know the cost of every bomb the US dropped. You know what's the cost?
Yes.
The US budget, the military
Yes.
industrial complex. War is a
Yes.
business. They make profit.
Yes.
The United
Yes.
States
Yes.
doesn't produce things. They cannot compete with China. So the only thing that they can
Correct.
produce is wars. They need wars,
Yes.
endless wars.
Yes.
Look at
Yes.
how many wars have China been in, or Russia. Look at the wars that the United States have been in. How many
Mm-hmm.
wars? And
And
Andrew, I just want to answer something here. I'm seeing something
yes.
here from Port to that pursuing material thing that will come to nothing. We need the
Ye-
Lord Jesus Christ. There is man
Yes.
wisdom will come to nothing, and God wisdom is everlasting. I'll just like to reply to that. You see, that is the type of bogus right-wing theology that
Mm-hmm.
leaves us, that create people who are inactive and do not become conscious agents of change. Jesus never
Mm-hmm.
said, Jesus never said to his disciples or to the young man who claimed that he kept all the commandments, leave it to me and everything will be done. He said, come with me. Come
Mm-hmm.
with me. So, yes, nothing is wrong with loving Jesus, of course, and having faith in Jesus, but your faith in Jesus must be accompanied by action,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Well,
Good.
faith is an action word.
This is what
Faith is an action.
This is what Martin Luther King
Yes.
preached. Dr. King preached this.
Yes.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yes, man. I believe that there's a higher, that we need to acknowledge that we are divine beings with a common D, and we are an extension of that great divine being and divine mind. And we are called to be co-workers and co-creators of this earth. That is what he did when he put Adam in the garden to tend it. So if we love Jesus, because Jesus was a revolutionary, if we love Jesus, because Jesus' message was one of total liberation, total liberation. You know, Jesus did not draw a line between the material body and the spirit, because people were hungry and he multiplied the fishes and loaf to feed them. But he know also they had spiritual needs. We have both material and spiritual needs.
Thank you. Well, I think we can end the live on that basis on tonight. Yeah, I think it was a great live, Mr. Pereira, and thank you for joining us and sharing, as usual, your wisdom with us. Because right now we are in a situation where I don't know. I think that we perhaps are in the most dangerous period of
Yes,
Caribbean, or perhaps
yes.
one of the most dangerous.
These are dangerous times. This
Yes, yes.
reminds me of when after, this is reminiscent of the days when Hitler went into Austria, took over
Yes.
Austria, then he went into other places, into Belgium and all of those places.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we have to, fascism is not something, my brother, that you go to bed at night and then wake up and confront it the next day. It
Yes.
creeps. It
Yes.
begins, and if you don't
Yes.
check it early,
Yes.
it ends up,
It
it becomes
evolves
too
into
late.
full
That's
scale
right.
dictatorship.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Mm-hmm.
right. It
Yes.
evolves.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Yes.
And
And that is
it
where we're
fools a
heading
lot of
to.
people because it hides behind this mask of liberal
Mm-hmm.
democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. What concerns me the most, though, is that our people seem not to be aware fully of what is happening, and that's why we have like a few people. Well, I must say that the live was cut, so and it was growing, but I find that we are not really taking, a lot of us, some of us are evidently, that's why we're here, taking this matter seriously. I think some of us are making speculations. Oh, Trump is not going to attack Venezuela. We hope he doesn't, but we
We hope.
know that history, the history. Go ahead, Mr. Perreira. The history. Go ahead, Mr. Perreira.
Yes, we know that from the,
Yeah.
and brother Andrew, if you look,
Yes.
history is a great teacher. The
Lesson book.
past
Yeah.
shapes the present, And of course, the
Yes.
CLRG in the present shapes the future.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
When you read
Mm-hmm.
the history of the United States, when you look at the
Yes.
history of the US and the West European countries that committed colonial genocide against indigenous people,
Mm-hmm.
captured Africans, enslaved them, and built their countries on African enslavement. You look at the treaties they entered into with the indigenous people, they broke every treaty. Their
Mm-hmm.
history is one of lies and deception.
Yes. But I'm
So,
even talking about most
why
recent
would you
history, Mr.
believe
Perret.
them? That's right.
Yeah.
Why would you
Yeah.
believe them? You look at
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they did in the past. They lied about
Yeah.
weapons of
Yeah.
mass destruction in Iraq. They
Correct.
lied about many things.
Correct.
And you know what? You know what?
Libya. Yes.
Yes, Libya, everything. You know what? I tell people, and we ended this, if they can lie about the
Mm-hmm.
racial identity of Jesus Christ, tell me what else they won't lie
Mm-hmm.
about.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Jesus,
But
Jesus was black slash brown skin, black. Okay?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
prophets from
But
that area, Elijah, all of these people were black. They erase it and color them, whiten every prophet,
yeah.
and then
Yes.
sold us a Jesus with blue eye and blonde hair. If they can erase the
Mm-hmm.
ethnic identity, the racial identity of Jesus, you tell me what else they won't lie about.
Yeah.
So
I'm
why would
thinking though,
you
Mr.
believe
Perret,
them?
about
Why would you believe them when they tell you about Mugabe? Why would you believe them? When they tell you about Saddam Hussein, why would
correct.
you believe them? Their
Correct.
history is
Correct.
one of lies and deception.
Right. And the 500,000 children who died in Iraq because of sanctions
Yes,
imposed on Iraq years ago by the United States. So we're
yes,
not dealing with, we're not here to suggest that the United States cannot be stopped. It can be stopped if we're willing to, to
that's
protest and
right.
to stand up. But if we are
That's right.
not willing to do that, it's going to move forward. Right? It's
Yes,
going to move forward with what it is supposed, what it wants to do,
do.
and hopefully God will,
The
outside
people,
of
only
divine
the people in the
intervention.
Caribbean can stop them. Yes. We have to come
Yes,
into the streets
outside,
in thousands.
correct,
Yes.
correct. But it seems to me that we are now at a point, Mr. Pereira, where, as somebody said on the live, I can't remember which one of them said, that our education system has indoctrinated us. So we really don't know what is happening. I think we believe that the United States is like a Hollywood and it's going to come and get Maduro out, and
Yeah.
afterwards we're going to live in peace. And we do not understand that wars are terrible. And Mr. Pereira, you understand that because you've lived in
Yeah.
Libya, right? So you saw firsthand what the situation that unfolded there. And those individuals who live in Iraq, in the Middle Eastern, in the Middle East, they know the horrible consequences of things that happened there. So let us not
Yes.
take this lightly. Let us do what we can do in our neck of the woods. I'm not saying to be paranoid. I'm not saying that you're going to walk around and be, always in fear. Because if we are always in fear, we're going to be paralyzed and we can't think. But let us join hearts and hands together and probably write the letter to our MPs or whatever who we need to talk to, and let them know that they need to stand up to what is happening. Mr. Perot, your final words so we can end the live.
Yes, um, Andrew, we owe it. We owe it to our ancestors. We owe it to all those who fought for freedom. The
Yes.
Caribbean, our founding fathers of CARICOM, they always emphasized and they stood that the Caribbean must be a zone of peace. Gerald Barrow once
Mm-hmm.
said, "We will be friends of all, but satellites of none." Our
Of none. Yes.
independence and our sovereignty is being trampled upon. We,
Mm-hmm.
the best way to honor our ancestors, all those who gave their lives in
Mm-hmm.
the struggle against slavery, against
Mm-hmm.
indentureship, against colonial genocide, and the fight for independence. We owe it to them and the generations to come to take
Mm-hmm.
our rightful place in the struggle to protect. This is about
Yes.
protecting. This is about protecting our civilization. This is about in
Yes.
defense of humanity, because
Yes, sir.
the present U.S. administration is the best way to describe it. It fits all the characteristics of what constitute fascism. Not that you have the soft fascism, and this is the hard and naked
Mm-hmm.
fascism. What we
Mm-hmm.
are witnessing is naked fascism. We are being
Mm-hmm.
bullied, and we have to take a
Mm-hmm.
stand before it is too late.
Yes. It is too late. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, please like the live before you leave. Share it with as many people on your neighbors, your friends. We need to also share and get the word out so that we can, do what we have to do. Because at the end of the day, we can only do the best that we can do. We're only humans at the end of the day. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you in another live. Mr. Perreira, I want to thank you so much, despite our glitch that we had
That's okay.
during the
Welcome,
first
brother.
part of the live. But
Yes,
I thank
yes,
you so much for holding on and keeping the fort.
yes.
And we'll
The truth.
see
The battle for
us
truth
another
is
live.
there.
Maybe on Sunday. Maybe on Sunday we'll have something else. And you can send us on the comment section what you want us to talk about on another live. Because we want you to participate in the live and for you to tell us what you want Mr. Pereira or myself to speak about. So have a good night, guys.
Okay,
Ciao.
my brother.
Bye bye,
Okay,
Mr.
yeah.
Pereira. Bye bye. Goodbye.